האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Erev Tov, good evening, Dobro V'Yetzer. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parshas Tzav. We're going to do Os Beis, section 2. And before we begin, let's take a look at the first two psukim from our Parsha, Parshas Tzav. Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, and Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Tzav es Aharon v'es bonov lemor, command Aharon and his sons, saying, Zos Toras ha'ola, this is the law of the burnt offering. Hi ha'ola al mokdo al hamizbeach kol halayla. This is the burnt offering that stays on the flame all night, ad haboker, until the morning. Ve'esh hamizbeach tu kadbo, and the fire of the altar should be burning in it, or on it. So that's how our Parsha begins. And now let's take a look at the Zera Shimshon. Again, Os Beis, Parsha's Tzav, section number 2. Medrash Rabbah, the Medrash Rabbah comments on this pasuk, Tzav es Aharon v'es bonav v'chule. Command Aaron and his sons, etc. Rabbi Yehoshua Omer, Rabbi Yehoshua says, Mitchilas ha-sefer v'ad kan, from the beginning of the book of Vayikra and until this point, which is the beginning of the second Parsha, Ksiv, it's written, Ve'orchu b'nei Aharon, and the sons of Aharon should arrange, Ve'nosnu b'nei Aharon, and the sons of Aharon should place. So the sons of Aharon are talked about in up until this point, meaning during the first Parsha, the Parsha of Vayikra, but Aharon is not mentioned. Omar Moshe lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Moshe said in front of Hashem, Ribono shel olam, master of the world, Habor senua umeimeha chavivin, the cistern is hated, but the waters of the cistern are cherished, meaning you're talking about the sons of Aharon, which are like the waters that come from the cistern. Aharon is the source. He is the cistern in this metaphor, and you're not mentioning his name. You're apparently rejecting Aharon and not mentioning his name, but you're mentioning the sons of Aharon, the Bnei Aharon. Chalakta kavod la'etzim, and you gave honor to certain types of trees, bishvil b'neihem, because of their produce. Disninan taman, as we learned in a Mishnah, kol ha'etzim ksherim lama'aracha, the wood of all trees is fit to be brought and put on the pile of wood that goes on the mizbeach, on the altar. Chutz mishel zayis v'shel gefen, except for the wood of an olive tree and a grapevine, from olive trees and grapevines. The wood and branches from those things, the olive tree or the grapevine, are not fit to be brought and burned on the altar because their fruit supplied people with olives and grapes, and therefore it's not appropriate, the Mishnah says, to burn the wood of the olive tree or the grapevine on the Mizbeach. So that shows that Hashem honored certain types of trees because of their produce. But here Hashem apparently did not honor Aharon because of his sons. As Moshe continues, Li Aharon iyatachole kavod bishvil bonov. So to Aharon, will you not give honor because of his sons? Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem responded to Moshe, Chayecha, by your life, Bishvilcha ani mekarvo, because of you, I will bring Aharon close. That means I will restore Aharon's honor, and I will mention his name, as Hashem does here in the beginning of Parshas Tzav. V'lo od, and not only that, Elisha ani ose oso ikar, I will make him the primary person that I'm addressing, uvan of Tefillim, and his sons will be secondary. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, as our pasuk says, Tzav es Aharon v'esponov, command Aharon and his sons, ad kan lishono, until here is a quote from the Medrash Rabbah. So we see in this excerpt from the Medrash Rabbah that Moshe noticed and was concerned about the fact that Aharon's name was not mentioned in the Parsha of Vayikra, whereas Aharon's sons were named and were given tasks from Hashem, and that concerned Moshe. Why was Aharon's name not being mentioned? Why was Aaron not being addressed by Hashem as he had been in the past? And why wasn't Hashem telling Moshe to give these commands to Aaron and his sons, as opposed to just the sons of Aaron? So Moshe questioned this, and Hashem responded and said, Moshe, don't worry, I will, in your merit, I will mention Aaron and restore his honor. And not only that, but I will mention him first and then his son. So he will be the primary person that I address these commands to. So that's the quote from the Medrash Rabbah. Next paragraph. The Zera Shimshon here in this next paragraph, and the next two paragraphs actually, is going to pose three questions. Hiksha Halev Aryeh. The first question was posed by the commentary Lev Aryeh. The Ibcha Hayolo Lomar, that Moshe should have said the opposite of what he said. Meimeha Chavivin Vehabor Snua. Moshe should have said, the water from this source is cherished, but the cistern itself, the source itself, is hated. Kevan dehamechuvan hu, since Moshe's intention was lekarev habor bishvil meimeha, to restore the legitimacy and the honor of the cistern because its waters are being accepted. That's what Moshe's argument should have been. Lo chein ata, but that is not the case apparently now. Shemasmia al mashe mechabev, because Moshe, the way he formulated his question, the way he worded his question to Hashem, made it seem that he was asking, if you reject Aharon, the source, why are you accepting and cherishing his sons, who represent the waters from the well? Kivan shehabor snua, since the well itself is hated. So let's pause to understand this question, because it focuses on a subtle point in the wording of what Moshe said. Moshe had said, how can it be that the cistern can be rejected, but its waters can be loved and cherished and consumed? And the commentary Lev Aryeh says, Moshe would have been better off, apparently, would have made his point in a more clear and a stronger way if he had said to Hashem, you've accepted the water of a well, meaning then that would refer to our own sons. Why are you rejecting the well? In which case, clearly the point of Moshe would be, Hashem, accept Aaron. Don't just accept, if you've accepted the water from the sons, also accept the source of the water, which is Aaron. But the way that Moshe phrased it made it seem as if Moshe was saying, Hashem, since you rejected Aaron, why are you accepting his sons? Which, of course, would not seem to be Moshe's intention. That's the first question. Ve'od yesh ledaktek, next paragraph, and we have another point to analyze. Me hoyisa kavanas Moshe. What was the intention of Moshe Rabbeinu? Be'omro shtei ta'onos, by making two claims. Habor snua. First, Moshe talked about the cistern or the well and its water. That was his first claim. Chalakta kavod. And then he made a second point about the fact that Hashem has given. We have a source from the Mishnah where Hashem gives honor, so to speak, to trees, certain types of trees, olive trees and grapevines, namely, because of the produce that come from them. So too, if Hashem is pleased with and honoring Moshe's sons, he should be on Aaron's sons. If Hashem is pleased with Aaron's sons and he's mentioning them in the Torah and Parshas Vayikra, he should also honor Aaron because of that. So why did Moshe have to feel the need to make both of those points in the Medrash Rabbah? Ve'af HaKadosh Baruch Hu nosein lo shtei tshuvos. And then Hashem responded with two answers. In other words, Hashem realized that Moshe was making 2 points or 2 claims, and Hashem responded in 2 ways. Mitchilo amarani mekarvo. First, Hashem said, I will bring Aharon close. I will mention Aharon's name. V'achar kach ani oso ikar. And afterwards, Hashem added a second point, which is, not only will I mention Aharon's name, but I'll make him the first name that I mention as the primary person I'm addressing, and then I'll mention his sons' names after that. Ve'od. And third question, an additional question, which is the third question. Mahu bishvilcha ani mekarevoso. What did Hashem mean when he said, because of you, Moshe, or in your merit, Moshe, I will bring Aharon close, I will restore him. V'halo Moshe lo omar sheyase bishvilo. Is it not true that Moshe never said that? Moshe didn't say, Hashem, because of me and the points that I'm making, or because of my merit, please restore Aharon. So if Moshe never said that explicitly, why did Hashem say in his response to Moshe, Bishvilcha, because of you and your merit, I'm going to restore Aharon's honor. So before we continue, it's important to understand that the unstated subject of what's going on so far of this topic that we're discussing with this piece in the Medrash Rabbah and the questions that the Zera Shimshon is posing has to do with the Egel HaZohav. Moshe appears to be concerned that Aharon has been rejected by Hashem, and Hashem is not mentioning his name and did not mention his name in the Parsha of Vayikra because of Hashem's anger and displeasure over Aharon's role in the Egel HaZohav, in the sin of the golden calf. And that's what's going on behind the scenes when Moshe says, Hashem, why are you rejecting Aaron? And why aren't you mentioning him? And why aren't you giving him honor because of his sons? If you're displeased with him and you won't forgive him completely, what about his sons and honoring him on behalf of his sons? So that's what's behind. That's the context, so to speak, behind what's happening here with Moshe questioning Hashem and Hashem avoiding mentioning Aharon's name in the Parsha of Vayikra. Let us continue. Bottom paragraph in the second column. V'hine Rashi, olav hasholom al pasuk. Rashi comments on the pasuk, Uve'aharon his anaf Hashem me'od lahashmido. This pasuk is very significant. This is a pasuk from Sefer Devarim, in which Moshe is recounting the Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf. And Moshe says Hashem became very angry with Aharon, lehashmido, to destroy him, v'chule, etc. Kosav, Rashi wrote, Zeh kiloi bonim. This word lahashmido, to destroy Aharon, is a reference not to destroying Aharon, but to eliminating Aharon's sons. Meaning Moshe was telling the people that Hashem was so angry with Aharon that he considered wiping out all 4 of Aharon's sons. V'chein hakosov omer, and similarly another pasuk, this is a pasuk from Amos, says ve'ashmid piryo mima'al, uses this language of hashmada, of destruction, and it says, I will destroy his produce, his offspring, from above. So Rashi says, we see when it says lahashmido, Hashem was so angry that he was going to destroy Aaron. That term lahashmido, Rashi says, means to wipe out Aaron's 4 sons. Continuing in the quote from Rashi, V'es palel gam be'ad Aharon, and Moshe said, and I davened on behalf of Aharon. Next page, top right column of the next page. Veho ilot filosi lechaper mechza, and my prayer, Moshe said, was successful, was effective in bringing half of atonement. Umesu shnayim, and 2 of Aaron's sons ended up dying. V'nisharu shnayim, and 2 remained. Ad kan lishono, until here is a quote from Rashi. So in this Rashi that the Zera Shimshon brings, we see that Hashem was so angry over Aaron's role in the Chet HaEgel that he was prepared to eliminate Aaron's 4 sons, all of Aaron's 4 sons. Moshe reported that he davened for forgiveness and was successful only halfway. And then that success saved the lives of Aaron's 2 younger sons, but Aaron's 2 older sons died. Ve'af kan yesh ledaktek. And even here on this Rashi, we need to pose a question. So this would be the 4th question. This makes sense. Rashi's comments make sense. Leman de Omar, according to the opinion, tefillah o somechza, that when prayer is offered on behalf of someone who a punishment from Hashem has already been declared, then osemechta, such a prayer in that situation can do half. It can't accomplish everything because Hashem has already issued a decree, has already issued a gezerah against someone, but it can be successful 50%. But according to the other opinion in Chazal, that davening can accomplish everything, can save everyone, even though Hashem has already issued a ruling against them. Lama mesu shnayim. So why did 2 of Aaron's sons have to die? So what the Zera Shimshon is asking is, in the Rashi, there's an assumption that Moshe's davening on behalf of Aaron's sons could only accomplish 50% of his goal, and his objective was to save all 4 sons, but it could only save half of the 4, meaning 2, because 2 died. And however, we have an opinion that says that davening for people who Hashem has already made a decision against to punish them can be successful even fully, even oseh hakol, even to do everything. So then why wasn't Moshe's davening accepted to save all 4 of Aaron's sons? That's the question here. Next paragraph. V'tzorech l'soretz, and we need to answer. Moshe teretz hayefei tohar, as the commentary Yefei Tohar answers, v'vayikra Rabbah, on the Vayikra Rabbah, on the Medrash Rabbah, al pasuk kaches Aaron v'yasbonav ito. This is a pasuk that says, take Aaron and his sons with him, v'chulei. Shetzarech lomar, the Yefei Tohar commentary says, we need to say, Moshe hispalel al arbatam, Moshe davened for all 4 of Aaron's sons, Vishuv mesu bechetam, and later on 2 of them died in their own sin, because of their own sin. Ad kan Lashono, until here is a quote from the Yefei Tohar, meaning not that they died only because of their own sin, but rather 2 of Aaron's sons died. The eldest, his eldest 2 sons died because of a combination of Aaron's actions at the Egel HaZahav, and also the fact that they later participated in their own sin when the Torah tells us they brought an Eish Zora, they brought a foreign fire as an offering. So it was a combination. It was that additional sin that made it so that they weren't completely cleared from the sin that their father Aaron HaKohen had committed. Uva emes, and in truth, the Zera Shimshon continues, Shebozeh Mesoratz Nami, this explanation of the Yefei Tohar also helps explain how Loshen Shel Bo'ez Hahi, the words, the language that Moshe used when he described this incident, and he said, Bo'ez Hahi, at that time, that he davened for Aharon at that time, Klomar Bo'ez Hahi ho'ilo tfilosi. Moshe said the words at that time because he was saying, at that time, my davening was fully effective. I had saved all 4 of Aaron's sons, Bo'ez Hahi, at that moment. Aval achar kach, but afterwards, im yamusu bechetam, if Hashem decreed that they would die because of their own sin, ain't tefillah zo moelis, then my prayer would not be effective. My prayer could save them if they committed no major sin after Aaron's involvement in the Chet HaEgel, but since they did commit a sin after that, Moshe says, my davening for them and my original saving of them was neutralized, so to speak, and therefore they died, as we said, as a combination of Aaron's actions plus what they did afterwards. Next paragraph. V'tam misas habonim ba'avon avihem, and the fact, or the reason, I should say, for the sons dying through the sin of their father, afal pisha hayu gedolim, even though they were adults. So Zera Shimshon here is assuming that we are aware of the general rule that sons who are adults, once they reach adulthood, are not punished for the sins of their parents. But here we're saying that Hashem was prepared to wipe out all of Aaron's 4 sons because of his actions. And in the end, 2 of them did, in fact, die partially because of Aaron's actions and partially because of their own actions. So why should that be true? Why should there even been the possibility of Aaron's sons being punished for the sin of his father's involvement in the Chet HaEgel? He mida keneged mida. It is because of the principle of measure for measure. Shehare chor shemosar atzmo al kedusha Hashem, because Hor, Chazal teach us that Hor, who is mentioned in the Torah as the son of Miriam, so that would be Moshe and Aaron's nephew. Hor gave up his life in order to do a Kiddush Hashem, which means this is a reference to, again, the Zera Shimshon's assuming we're aware of the teaching in Chazal that when the people wanted to build an Egel HaZohav, they wanted to build a golden calf, before they approached Aharon, they approached Hor, Aharon's nephew, Miriam's son, and they asked him to help them build an Egel HaZohav. He absolutely refused, even knowing that this would cost him his life because of the nature of the mob that was assailing him. And they, in fact, killed him. They killed Hor. So Hor gave up his life al Kiddush Hashem in order to honor Hashem's name and to sanctify Hashem's name and not to participate in any way in the construction of the golden calf. Because of that, Zocha, he merited sheyegadel Bitzalel bizchuso, that his grandson Bitzalel would rise to the level of greatness of being the main person in charge of the construction of the Mishkan, bizchuso, in Hor's merit. So Hor gave up his life al Kiddush Hashem by refusing to be involved in the construction of the golden calf of the Egel HaZohav, and because of that, he merited that his grandson Bitzalel would reach the greatest height of being in charge of the building of the Mishkan. Im Kain, if so, Aharon shelo mosar nafsho, Aharon, who did not give up his life when the people came and said to him, we want you to help us build an Egel HaZohav, he did not give up his life. Hoya min haro'oi, it would have been appropriate, shelo yiyeh lo banim gedolim b'malo, that he not have any sons who would reach greatness in their stature, in their level, in their spiritual level. V'hoil shekain, and since that was the case, yoser tov lahem hamisa, it would have been better for them to die. In the eyes of Shemaim, it would have been better for all of our own sons to die, even though we have a principle that they shouldn't die. Adult sons should not be punished for their sins of their father in this case. Kimoshe Omru Bizohar Uvameforshim, as it is stated in the Zohar and in the commentaries. Sheyoser Tov Le'odum Lomus, it's considered Menashamayim better for a person to die, Miliros Hakoton Mimenu, than to see someone who is on a lower level than himself, Bimala Haru'uyalo, attain a level or a position that was fit for that person. So Zera Shimshon, let's finish the paragraph. V'zehu tam misa Shaul, and this is the reason for the death of Shaul, kishehigia hamalchus leDavid, when David HaMelech became the king, Shaul HaMelech, so to speak, it was decreed upon him that he needed to die, that it was better for him to die rather than for him to stay alive and see the kingship be taken from him and given to David. As we wrote, the Zera Shimshon says, nearby in a previous piece, which is a reference to his first piece on Parsha Tzav, on our Parsha. So let's understand what's being said here. The Zera Shimshon, one of the Zera Shimshon's questions was, why did Aharon's sons deserve to die? Two of them, in fact, dying, and the other two surviving, but originally almost being killed. Why would that happen if we have a rule that the adult sons should not be punished for the actions of their parents? In this case, again, Aharon, the father. And so he's answering, and he's saying that Misa became an appropriate punishment here for Aaron's sons because min hashamayim, the way they view things in the divine calculations, so to speak, is that it's preferable for a righteous and great person to die rather than have that person see that a position or a level of greatness being that was magia lahem, that was they deserve to attain, and they deserve to be in that position and reach that level. It would be preferable for them to die rather than them see that given to another person who would be the second choice, not the first choice. And therefore, that decision was made that Aaron's sons would die for the sin that he committed of being involved with the Egel HaZohav and not giving up his life at that point, al Kiddush Hashem. However, as we've said previously, Moshe davened. His davening saved all four sons originally, but then later, because of the addition of their own sin, the oldest two died. Next paragraph. V'zehu inyan hamedrash hanizkar la'el. And this is what the medrash that we mentioned in the beginning is talking about. Omar Moshe lifnei HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Moshe said to Hashem, Im habor snua, if the cistern is hated, then it's impossible for the water from that cistern, that source, to be cherished. Klomar, this is what Moshe meant. Im yesh lecha adayin sina al Aharon. If you still hold hatred for Aharon because of his participation with the Egel HaZohav, shelo his karta shmo, and that's why you haven't mentioned his name, mitchilas sefer va'ad kan, from the beginning of the book of Vayikra until here. Im kain, if so, mizeh hatam atzmo, for this very reason, lo hoyu lecho lahazkir, you should not mention, top of the next column, Shem habonim shelo, the names of his sons. Ve'im ho'ilot filosti lahatzolos habonim v'lizakosam. And if my davening has been effective to save our own sons and to give them merit, Iker hatfila, my main davening, lo ha'yusa elali Aharon, was not intended except to save Aaron. So Moshe says to Hashem, I daven for Aaron and his four sons, but the main thrust of my davening was because of Aaron, to bring kapara, to bring full forgiveness on Aaron himself. Ubishvilo ha'yuzochim bon of Aharon, and because of him, his sons merited to take over the positions after him. Ve'im his karta shem habanim. So if you're going to mention the names of the sons, mikol shkein, how much more so? Hayu l'chol hazkir shmo shel Aaron. How much more so should you mention the name of Aaron? So this insight in this paragraph helps us understand what's really going on behind the scenes in terms of Moshe's kavana and what Moshe had in mind when he spoke to Hashem and made his claims to Hashem. Because now we see that what Moshe was saying was, you apparently accepted my davening on behalf of Aaron's sons. However, I was davening for Aaron's sons in addition to davening for Aaron. And my intention was, Hashem, forgive Aaron and forgive his sons in his merit. Forgive them because they are the Bnei Aaron. They are the sons of Aaron. So I don't understand why you're choosing to mention Aaron's sons in Parshas Vayikra, but not mentioning Aaron. That doesn't fit with my tefillah. If you did not, Hashem, if you did not accept my davening at all, so then don't mention Aaron or his sons. Don't mention anyone. And if you accepted my tefillah enough that you would mention Aaron's sons, then kal v'chomer, how much more so you should mention Aaron, who was the main person on whose behalf I was davening. Next paragraph. V'im tomar, and if you say, Shehabonim shelo chatu klal, the sons who did not sin at all, meaning Aaron's two remaining sons after the death of the eldest, so the two younger sons, if you say they didn't commit any sin at all, min hadin hu sheyiyu ikar bakahuna, then lawfully or logically they should be the main ones who carry on the kahuna. Meaning instead of Aaron, as the Zera Shimshon continues, Abal Aaron shechota, but Aaron who was involved in the Chet HaEgel, Afal Pisha ein litol hakahuna mimenu, even though it would not be appropriate to take away completely the kahuna from him, Hoil shekvar zocha ba, since Aaron already merited the kahuna, bishvil v'ro'acha v'samach belibo, because of what the Torah tells us in this pasuk that Hashem said to Moshe when he gave him the mission of going back to Mitzrayim to save the Jewish people. Hashem said to Moshe, "V'ro'acha, Aaron is coming to find you, and he will see you, and he will rejoice in his heart upon seeing you." And Chazal teach us that because of that fact, that Aaron would not be in the least jealous of Moshe's mission to save the Jewish people. After all, Moshe was Aaron's younger brother. Aaron would not be the least bit jealous. Just the opposite. Aaron would rejoice, Hashem testifies, in meeting up with Moshe, seeing his brother again, and hearing about his being chosen to lead the Bnei Yisrael out of bondage. He rejoiced over that, and Chazal teach us that is why he merited to become the first Kohen, and all of the Kohanim descended from him. Mikol Makam, nevertheless, Eino minaroi lasoso ikar bakahuna. Nonetheless, he did sin, he erred, and he transgressed in his participation of the Egel Hazav. So therefore, it's not appropriate, perhaps, that he should be the Ikar Bakahuna, the main person carrying on the priesthood afterwards. Moshe Matzinu b'Moshe Atzmo, as we actually find regarding Moshe himself. The Aflaman de Omar Bazvachim, because even according to the opinion in the Gemara in Maseches Zvachim, Shelo Poska HaKahuna Mimenu, that the kahunaship, so to speak, did not terminate with Moshe. The opinion there is that after Moshe served as the Kohen Gadol during the Shivas Yemei HaMiluim, during the 7 days of dedication of the Mishkan, when Moshe did everything that needed to be done and served as the Kohen Gadol. So one opinion is that after that was all over, Moshe no longer remained a Kohen. And the other opinion is, that's being quoted here, that's being referenced here, is that Moshe never lost the kahunaship. He never lost his status as a Kohen even after the 7 days, the Shivas Yemei HaMiluim. Mikol Makam, nonetheless, lo ha-yehu ha-ikar b'kahuna. He was not the main Kohen. He wasn't the Kohen Gadol, and he didn't serve as the main Kohen. So the question in this paragraph is, Zera Shimshon says, why is it that Aaron was restored to his full position of greatness as the main Kohen, the Kohen Gadol, rather than be a person, than be told, than Moshe being told Aaron will continue as a Kohen, but one of his sons will be the Kohen Gadol. His two remaining sons will be the main Kohanim that I address myself to, and Aaron will also be mentioned. Why didn't that happen? Next paragraph. Mishum hachi hosif, because of that, Moshe added his second claim. If you, Hashem, gave honor to certain trees because of their sons, meaning because of their produce, that's of course a reference to the Mishnah we saw brought down in the Medrash Rabbah about Hashem saying, because the olive tree and the grapevine give important produce to the Jewish people, their wood will not be burnt on the Mizbeach. So too, Hashem, Moshe said, you argued you should follow the same principle and give honor to Aaron because of his sons. Shemesu al Kedusha Shimcha, because two of his sons, the two eldest, died in order to sanctify your name. Shahare Nodav va'avihu, because Nodav and Avihu, again, this is a reference to a teaching in Chazal, Mesu al Kedusha Hashem, they died in the sanctification of Hashem's name, Kedei sheyiskadesh habayis, in order that the base hamikdash, or actually the Mishkan, should be sanctified bimiyudav, with shelmakum, with those who were close to Hashem, with those who were, so to speak, totally dedicated and close to Hashem. Kedichsiv, as it actually says in a pasuk, bikrovai ekadesh, with those who are close to me, I will be sanctified. Ve'al penei kol ha'am, and on the face of all the people, ekaved, I will be honored. So Chazal, basing themselves on this pasuk and on other words and phrases and words in the Torah, say that Nadav and Avihu, Aaron's oldest two sons, their death brought about a kiddush Hashem. It brought about a sanctification of Hashem's name and a clearer understanding to the people, that even when individuals had the loftiest and the holiest of intentions, nonetheless, they have to follow. They're responsible to follow in the strictest way all the laws of the Mishkan and later the Beis HaMikdash, and they brought this teaching, this very critical teaching, this vital teaching to the people. VeHaKodesh Baruch Hu Heishiv Lo. So Hashem responded to Moshe, who now we understand had brought two claims to Hashem. Hashem responded to Moshe Rabbeinu, Bishvilcha ani mikarvo. Because of you, I will bring Aharon close. Lefisha be'emes atah, because truthfully now, Shegam Aaron chata kimo Moshe, now we see that Aaron committed a sin just as Moshe did. That's a reference to another teaching in Chazal that says that when Moshe, by the sneh haboer ba'esh, in the story in the Torah of the burning bush and Moshe's resistance, Moshe's extreme reluctance to accept the mission from Hashem, and Moshe is giving all kinds of reasons why he should not be the one to go and save Bnei Yisrael from Mitzrayim, all of those actions were considered sinful. V'yoser mimenu, and Aaron's sin was even worse than Moshe's sin. Shegoram takolel Yisrael, because Moshe's sin only involved himself, but Aaron's sin brought a calamity to the Jewish people by participating in the Egel Hazav. Moshe hayayochol liton, Moshe would have been able to claim Shetachzor hakahuna lizaro. Moshe could have said, Hashem, I think the line of the kahuna, the line of all future Kohanim, should return to my children, because I committed sins, it's true, by my reluctance, but I didn't do anything as bad as what Aaron did, and therefore take it away from Aaron, take the kahuna from Aaron and give it to me. Moshe could have said that. Because in the beginning, from the very beginning, the kahuna was not given to Aaron and his children after him, ela bishvil cheto shel Moshe, except because of the sin of Moshe. Meaning, had Moshe immediately embraced the mission to go to Mitzrayim and save the Jewish people, he would have been considered not only the leader of the people and the person who, the lawgiver who received the Torah on Har Sinai, he would also have been the first Kohen, and all of his children would have been the future Kohanim. V'af al pichein, and even so Moshe could have made this claim rightfully. Moshe Adarabah, just the opposite. Moshe Halitz Tov. He advised good. He wanted only the best, and he recommended to Hashem only good bishvil Aaron ubishvil Bonov, for Aaron, for the sake of Aaron, and for the sake of his sons. So we see that Moshe, at great sacrifice to himself, giving up the position of the founder of the Kohanim and giving up this right to be Kohanim for all of his future generations, gave that all up and didn't even mention it because he was arguing on behalf of Aaron and his sons. And now we're going to see the impact of that, so to speak, on Hashem. Next paragraph, next page. When Hashem saw that Moshe, shehu basar vadam, who after all was a mortal man, he was flesh and blood, machal hagedula le'achiv u'lezaro, he conceded and gave up his own greatness so that it could go to his brother and his brother's children. Amar, so because of that, Hashem said, Bishvilcha ani mekarivoso, because of you, and so to speak, because of the lesson I'm learning from you, I will accept Aaron back. I will restore Aaron. Klomar, that means to say, Hareini mochelo gam ani, I will also forgive Aaron and restore him to his original position as Kohen Gadol, because I see your willingness and your commitment and dedication to your brother Aaron and to restoring him and his children to the kahuna. So how much more Hashem says that I am the greatest master of mercy. You Moshe, are just a person, and you showed incredible rachamim, but I'm the ultimate source of compassion. Ubishvil hatam shel chalakta kavod. And because of your additional reason about giving honor because of his sons, ani osa oso ikar, I will make Aaron the main person I address myself to. Shahare zuchus Nadav ve'avihu, because the merit of Nadav and Avihu min haroi sheyia moel yoser la'av. It is appropriate that their merit is effective for their father, more mila Elazar v'isamar shemachehem, more than bringing merit to their brothers Elazar and Isamar. So that last point means that one might have thought that what Nadav and Avihu did, and we said that they died al Kiddush Hashem and they brought a vital lesson to the Jewish people for that time and for all future generations, one might have thought that that merit should go to their brothers, and their brothers Elazar and Isamar should be the main leaders of the Kohanim afterwards, even though Aaron would continue, of course, as a Kohen. So the Zera Shimshon says, no, the merit of the actions of Nadav and Avihu go primarily to the father Aharon, and that's what Moshe was arguing for, and therefore Aaron continued as the Kohen Gadol and was the primary person Hashem addressed his future comments to after the Parsha of Vayikra, and Elazar and Isamar, the remaining sons of Aaron, came after him. They were secondary to Aharon. So the Zera Shimshon has taken the piece in the Medrash Rabbah and posed several questions on it, and by answering those questions, he has given us a much deeper understanding of what Moshe had in mind when he davened for Aaron, to save Aaron and to save Aaron's four sons, and how the different things played out with Aaron's sons, and how Aaron himself, after the Parsha of Vayikra, was restored to his original greatness because of Moshe's passionate arguing on his behalf, and because of the merit that he received from the deaths of his two eldest sons, and was therefore forever restored to his position as the very first Kohen and the first Kohen Gadol, and everything that happened afterwards to his children came about through him until the present times. And God willing, the sons of Aaron will continue to serve as Kohanim, and in our days quickly and speedily serve again in the Beis HaMikdash rebuilt in Yerushalayim. Thank you for Yashikach, and thank you for joining us in the Zera Shimshon learning this week. We look forward, God willing, to learning together in the Zera Shimshon on next week's Parsha.